Welcome back, everybody. We're going deep today into the life of Abeti Masikini.
The Queen of Soukous.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're going to be using, as like a base, the excerpts that you sent me from Abeti Masikini and the Emergence of Congo Music Rhumba Divas by Daateku channel.
A great piece.
Yeah. Awesome.
With the Queen of Soukous, Abeti Masikini.
Yeah.
Right? And we've got a ton of great material here from, bios and articles.
Yeah, lots of good stuff.
I think we could really unearth some cool stuff here.
I think so, too.
Going from singing in a church choir all the way to Olympia Hall.
Right.
This is a story about so much more than music.
It is.
It's about resilience. It's about challenging norms and, really inspiring a generation.
I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, get ready for some fascinating insights. I think we're going to find some cool stuff.
To, really just like explore who this woman was. I mean, already just in preparing for this, I was just blown away by all that she accomplished and just like the places that her career took her. She was, selling out shows in Paris, New York, like before she even like hit it big in Congo.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's a story that really challenges what we think we know about, like, musical authenticity and like the trajectory that artists take to success.
Yeah, totally. So let's just start from the beginning. So she was born Elizabeth Finat in 1954, and she had like a pretty privileged upbringing in Congo Kinshasa. Her dad was a politician, like a prominent politician.
Yeah, a member of parliament.
Betty's story is incredible, starting with the backdrop of political change.
Yeah.
I mean, she was born into a prominent family in the Belgian Congo. She saw firsthand the struggle for independence.
I wonder if that atmosphere of change and activism really did seep into her personality.
Yeah.
Must have paved the way for her to become such a strong and independent artist.
Yeah, that's a really interesting connection. And then, you've got the tragedy of her father's assassination when she was young.
Oh, gosh.
Which forces the family to flee to Kinshasa.
Wow.
Imagine that impact on a young girl.
That's just, wow. It's remarkable how she, had this strength and determination.
Right.
I mean, she could have just folded, right?
Right.
But instead, she channeled it into something really powerful.
Yeah.
But amidst all that upheaval, there was always music.
Right, always music. Her mother was a choir leader, and so Abeti started out singing in the church choir.
Oh, wow.
Like the first glimpse of her destiny.
Yeah, it's often said that early influences shape us.
Right.
And in her case, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
This powerful female figure, her mother leading the choir. I mean, that must have had a huge impact.
Absolutely. And speaking of powerful moments, her entry into the music scene, it's almost cinematic. She sneaks into a talent show in 1971.
Oh, wow.
She even fudges her age to do it.
She was like determined.
Like out of a movie, sneaking backstage, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
And she doesn't win, but she places third, and that catches the eye of a producer.
Who's that?
Gerard Equison, a Togolese producer who sees her raw talent.
That's amazing.
Classic tale of being discovered.
What a moment.
Yeah.
Do you think, do you believe, listener, in these life-changing moments of opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too.
Yeah, and now with, a manager backing her, she forms her first band.
Yeah, Liza Curie.
The Squirrels.
That sounds kind of cute.
Right.
Not for someone who's going to have such a powerful stage presence.
Exactly. So shedding that image, the band evolves into Les Redoutables.
Yeah.
Which evokes strength.
The formidable ones.
Yeah, much better.
Right.
Demands attention.
Right.
Sets the stage.
Yeah, and then in 1973, her debut album drops.
Pierre Cardin présente Abeti.
Wait, Pierre Cardin, the fashion designer.
Yeah, his label produced the album.
What?
Isn't that fascinating?
It is fascinating. I mean, you can see that connection right away.
Yeah.
Style, high fashion, bold style.
Stage presence, it all connects.
I love it. It's like she was meant to be a trendsetter.
Totally.
But I'm curious about the initial reception in Kinshasa, her own city.
Wow.
So it all kind of started in Togo.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. And then from there, it just like takes off. She's touring all over West Africa. I mean, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, you name it. I mean, she even met Fela Kuti at one point.
Oh, wow.
Like along the way.
That's amazing.
So, and her energy on stage it was captivating. Yeah. And people were just drawn to her unique sound. But what's really interesting, if you look at it, her early music was primarily in Swahili. Mm-hmm. And it was drawing on like Congolese folk traditions.
So that's interesting because that means that she's, finding this success singing in Swahili, even though, like, especially in Kinshasa, like, the dominant language was Lingala.
Right, yeah.
So it seems like kind of a bold choice.
Yeah, well, you have to remember, like, Lingala, it carried a lot of, like, political and social weight at the time. So for her to choose to sing in Swahili, I mean, Swahili was her native tongue, but still, I mean, she could have sung in Lingala and maybe been even more successful, but she's choosing to sing in Swahili, so that makes people pay attention. It's like defying expectations,
Yeah.
How do people react to her music?
Okay, so this is where we get into the complexities of cultural identity, because while she was gaining recognition, some people felt that her Swahili-influenced style was foreign.
But she's Congolese.
Right?
It's so strange.
Yeah, like a paradox.
What makes music feel local? Is it the language? Is it the instruments? The themes? What do you think, listener? Where do you draw the lines of cultural authenticity in music?
It's a great question. It's a question that goes beyond music. Identity and belonging. Globalization is complicated.
Especially today.
Right, and Abeti doesn't back down from this criticism.
No.
Instead, she kind of embarks on this journey that takes her music beyond the borders of Congo, challenging those very notions of what it means to be a local artist.
And that takes her to Olympia Hall in Paris.
Incredible venue. Think about the courage it took for a young artist to step on that stage in 1973.
Wow.
The first African artist to do so since Tabule Rochereau in 1970.
It's like a statement.
It is a statement.
Not just talent, but her determination to break barriers
Exactly.
and take Congolese music to the world.
And the audiences loved her. They were captivated by her blend of Congolese rhythms, soul blues.
Wow, so she conquers Paris, and then a year later she's performing at Carnegie Hall
Carnegie Hall.
in New York.
That's right, international acclaim, even catching the attention of the New York Times.
Wow, I mean, think about that. Kinshasa to Paris to New York in just a few years.
Yeah, just incredible whirlwind of success.
It really is. But there's another incredible event that happens that year
Oh, yeah.
that connects her to a moment in history that really transcends sports.
What are you thinking?
The Rumble in the Jungle.
Oh, yeah. Ali versus Foreman.
Yeah, she was part of that concert lineup.
Sharing the stage with James Brown and Miriam Makeba.
Wow, what that experience must have been like to be, surrounded by those icons in such a historic moment.
It speaks to her rising star power and the way that her music was resonating across, genres and cultures.
So you've got her hitting these major milestones, touring internationally, and her music is evolving too.
Yeah.
So tell us what's happening with her sound during this time.
She was never one to be confined to a single style. So during this period, she continued to experiment, blending those Congolese rhythms with soul blues, even later incorporating disco influences.
Disco.
Disco, yeah.
Kind of a surprising choice.
It is a bit of a surprise, but, she made it her own.
Of course she did. She had a way of taking different genres and, weaving them into her sound. But her lyrics went beyond, your typical love songs.
Right.
She started to address societal issues, champion women's rights, even sing about Congolese cuisine.
Congolese cuisine.
You don't hear that every day in pop music.
No, you do not.
But it shows that, she was using her platform to speak to a wider range of experiences.
Yep.
Connect with her audience on a different level.
Multiple levels.
Like she understood that music could be more than just entertainment.
Right.
It could be a vehicle for, social commentary.
Yeah.
Sharing stories, sparking conversations.
And she did it masterfully.
Yeah.
And that's something I noticed in her career too, is just like that she was constantly defying expectations. So she was touring internationally already by the early 1970s, and she was playing at legendary venues. Like she played at the Olympia in Paris, she played at Carnegie Hall in New York.
Incredible.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That's she's performing for a global audience, and she hasn't even hit it big in Congo yet.
It's pretty remarkable. She was she's sharing those stages with some of the biggest names in music. I mean, James Brown, Miriam Makeba, even Pierre Cardin, the fashion icon, was so impressed by her that he sponsored her first album.
That's insane.
So, I mean, talk about making an impact.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what was it about her music? Do you think that resonated with these international audiences? Was it the Swahili? Was it the folk elements? Was it just the energy that she was bringing?
I mean, I think it was probably a combination of all those things. But, her success wasn't without its critics, especially back home in Congo.
Yeah.
Some people felt that her music wasn't authentically Congolese, because of her focus on Swahili and folk traditions rather than the more popular, like, Lingala sound.
Oh, that's so interesting because, like, she's getting all this international acclaim for this unique blend of sounds that she's creating, and it's obviously drawing from her Congolese roots. But people back home are like, oh, this isn't Congolese enough.
Right, exactly.
And it really makes you think about, like, how we define authenticity, especially in music.
Absolutely, and I think it highlights, like, the pressure that artists face, right, to balance, staying true to their heritage while also, like, evolving, experimenting. It's a tightrope walk, especially when you're, like, breaking new ground, like Abeti was.
Totally. So how did she navigate that criticism, do you think? Like, did she change her style to, like, appease the people who felt like she was, straying too far?
Well, she definitely evolved, I think. I mean, her 1977 album, Visages, is a great example. It still has, Swahili and Lingala lyrics, but she starts to incorporate, like, more disco and pop influences.
Oh, that's fascinating. So she's weaving together all these different sounds, right, from all these different cultures and creating something like that's like totally fresh and new. And it's not just about, like, appealing to a wider audience either. It's about, like, pushing the boundaries of what even Congolese music is.
Right, and that was a debate, right?
Yeah, of course it would be.
I mean, some loved it, some hated it. But you can't deny that it was a turning point, in her career. It showed that she wasn't afraid to experiment, to challenge norms, even if it meant, ruffling some feathers.
I love that. And it seems like this, like, kind of, like, fearless attitude extended even to her stage presence. So, like, around this time, she completely, like, revamps her image. And she brings in these dancers that she calls Le Tigress.
I know. The name itself, like, Le Tigress.
It's so cool.
It's so evocative. It speaks to, like, her fierce energy, right? This, like, desire to just command attention, like, in a very male-dominated industry.
And, like, think about, like, the visual of that too, like her, like, this powerful woman owning the stage, and then she's got this group of, like, fierce dancers backing her up. It's a statement. And it worked, like, this new image combined with her evolving sound, like, it helped to solidify her as just, like, a true innovator.
And it also speaks to, like, her savvy as a performer, right? She understood that, in a competitive industry, like, you got to constantly evolve, right? You got to find ways to stand out. She wasn't content to just, like, be a great singer. Like, she wanted to create a whole experience.
Yes.
For the audience.
And speaking of like, creating an experience, we have to talk about her collaboration with Franco Luambo Macchiati. I mean, you know him, like the Congolese Rhumba legend.
I mean, the king.
Yeah. And there's another interesting tidbit here. She collaborated with the legendary OK Jazz Band.
OK Jazz? Are you kidding?
I know.
They're like royalty.
They're huge.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially for an artist who was seen, initially as an outsider.
Right.
What do you think that says about her evolution as a musician?
Oh, it's a testament to her talent and her ability to bridge those different musical worlds.
And her acceptance, right?
And her acceptance, almost like a symbolic homecoming, recognition of her place within that Congolese musical landscape.
The power of collaboration.
Right.
Working with other artists not only elevates your music, but it opens doors and it creates those bridges between communities.
Absolutely. And speaking of homecoming, this period also marks Abeti's embrace of Congolese Rhumba.
A genre so deeply rooted in the country's history.
And that leads to one of her biggest hits, right?
It does. Chéri Bade, which topped the charts in Zaire for a record-breaking 10 weeks.
10 weeks?
10 weeks at number 1.
Wow, it sounds like this is a major turning point.
Yeah.
Finally achieving that widespread recognition in her own country.
Right, a beautiful moment of culmination, testament to her persistence and her ability to connect with audiences.
I love it.
And her success doesn't stop there.
No.
The late 80s and early 90s see her reach even new heights, performing at Zenith de Paris, touring China.
Wow.
Even gracing the stage at the Apollo Theater.
Iconic thing.
It's truly remarkable. And what's even more inspiring is that throughout her journey, her band, Les Redoutables, becomes a training ground for other female artists.
So she wasn't just focused on her own success, she's paving the way for others.
Exactly. Artists like Bilia Bell and Shala Moana both, incredibly successful in their own right. Got their start in Abeti's band.
A legacy within a legacy. All right, she's creating incredible music, breaking down barriers, and nurturing the next generation of female artists.
That's amazing, ensuring that her impact would be felt for years to come.
Beautiful testament to her vision and her commitment to empowering women in the music industry.
Yeah.
Seems like a big turning point.
Yeah, it was. You see, up until this point, she'd actually, she'd found more success internationally than in Congo.
Right.
So, teaming up with Franco, a giant in the Congolese Rhumba scene, it was a strategic move.
It's ironic, right? She's being criticized for not being Congolese enough, but she's selling out shows in Paris and New York, and then she collaborates with a Rhumba legend, and that's what wins over the audiences back home.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how her career really is tied into this debate about authenticity, and a great example of this is her song Kilikibamba. On the surface, it's this catchy tune, but underneath, there's a subtle critique of Mobutu Sese Seko's authenticity movement.
The authenticity movement. Remind us quickly what that was about.
Sure. So it was a political and cultural movement in Zaire. Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo aimed at promoting authentic Congolese culture and shedding colonial influences.
So clothes names everything.
Exactly.
So for her to critique that movement in her music,
it was a bold move.
Especially during Mobutu's rule.
A risk, for sure. But it shows her willingness to engage with these complex issues.
Yeah.
And within that same song, she speaks out against sexual predators and advocates for the safety of young girls.
Wow.
So these different messages layered within her music. Yeah.
Subtle and powerful.
How did audiences receive these messages at the time? Do we know?
It definitely sparked conversations and solidified her image as an artist, unafraid to speak her mind.
But it wasn't always easy, though, right? The mid-1970s brought challenges and some setbacks.
Yeah.
So let's pause here for a moment and hear what you think, listener. Do you think that if she hadn't achieved that international success early on, would she have felt the same pressure to kind of conform to a more traditional Congolese sound?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's she was being pulled in these two different directions, right? The global stage was embracing this unique blend of sounds, but at home she kind of had to prove herself within the established Rhumba tradition.
Yeah. But even within Rhumba, she brought her own flair to it. Take her album from '86, Je suis fâché. It was a massive hit, and it introduced her music to a whole new generation, and that was produced by Cameroonian artist Georges Seba. So there's another layer there of this cross-cultural influence too.
Exactly.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So even when working within a more traditional genre, right? Yeah. She was still finding ways to innovate and to push boundaries. Je suis fâché brought in these fresh sounds, incorporating influences from Cameroon and beyond. It wasn't your typical Rhumba album. Even her stage, she starts performing at these prestigious venues like the Zenith in Paris, the Apollo Theater in Harlem. She's showcasing the power and global appeal of Congolese Rhumba. Wow, it's really cool. So it seems she's kind of she's able to find this balance, right, where she achieves mainstream success in Congo without totally abandoning that innovative spirit. But we can't talk about Abeti without talking about her rivalry with another Congolese music icon in Congo Love.
Yes.
The legendary rivalry.
Yeah, it's shrouded in a bit of mystery, right? A lot of it is based on speculation and kind of reading between the lines of their song lyrics.
It's like a musical soap opera playing out on vinyl records.
Exactly.
Okay, so take Abeti's song By Landa Landa, which means a follower. A lot of people interpreted that as a subtle dig at Mpongo Love, suggesting that she was imitating Abeti's style.
Yeah, and then Mpongo Love comes back, right, with Koba, meaning continue. It's she's saying, I'm doing my thing. I'm not backing down.
So good. It's fascinating how artists can use their music to communicate even when they're not directly addressing each other.
Yeah.
Like their rivalry, real or perceived, definitely added like another layer of intrigue to both of their careers.
Absolutely.
And it kind of highlights, the unique pressures that women in music often face, especially in like male dominated genres like Rhumba. Like they're not just competing with each other, they're also like fighting for recognition and respect, like in an industry that doesn't always welcome them, with open arms.
Right, absolutely. But despite any rivalry or anything, both Abeti and Mpongo Love like made incredible contributions to Congolese music. They were pioneers, paving the way for future generations of female artists.
What stands out to you so far in Abeti's journey? Is it her resilience in the face of personal tragedy, her willingness to push boundaries musically and lyrically, or maybe it's her courage in challenging, cultural norms and societal expectations?
It's interesting how a new artist entering the scene can kind of change the dynamic for everyone.
Yeah.
And in Abeti's case, it was the arrival of Mpongo Love, another powerful female vocalist.
Wow.
Really upped the level of competition.
Competition can be good, right?
Yeah.
It pushes you, but it can also lead to, insecurity and rivalry.
And remember that criticism about her Swahili-influenced style being foreign?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that resurfaced during this period.
Really?
It's this constant tension, right, between staying true to your roots and trying to appeal to a wider audience.
It's a dilemma so many artists face.
Totally.
And there are really no easy answers. Some critics argued that, by singing primarily in Swahili, she was alienating Lingala speakers who made up, a much larger portion of the Congolese population.
Yeah, it's about who you're making music for, right?
Right.
Is it your immediate community?
Yep.
Or a broader international audience even?
It's a tough call.
What would you do, listener? Would you compromise your artistic vision to gain wider acceptance?
Right.
Or would you stay true to your roots, even if it meant, limiting your reach?
It's a tough one, and it's really inspiring to see how Abeti handled it.
Yeah.
She doesn't back down from her style,
Good for her.
but releases a self-titled album that features a more diverse sound.
Oh, wow.
Showcasing her versatility, but still championing that unique Swahili influence.
Like, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
Exactly. Powerful statement of artistic integrity. And it worked.
I love it.
She continues to release albums like Vestiges and Puka Pepe Suka, further cementing her place in the Congolese music scene.
And Visages even had those disco influences.
It did, showing that willingness to adapt and experiment
Very cool.
while staying true to her core. Totally. And speaking of like legacies, what would you say is Abeti's most significant contribution to the world of music? Was it the fearless kind of like fusion of sounds? Was it her captivating stage presence, or was it even like her impact on fashion? Because there's clothing items, there's fabrics named after her songs, like the Abeti skirt.
I know.
It's pretty amazing, like her impact.
It's hard to choose just one.
Yeah.
She was a true innovator, a risk taker, and a global icon. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, she revolutionized Congolese music. She broke down barriers for women in the industry, and she brought the vibrant sounds of Congo to a worldwide audience.
And she was a fashion trendsetter too. It wasn't just about looking good. It was about another way for her to express herself and to challenge expectations. Imagine, the impact of seeing this powerful woman owning the stage in a bold Betty skirt, a style that's going to become synonymous with female empowerment.
Right.
It's a legacy that goes way beyond music.
You see echoes of her influence even today, both in music and in fashion. Her story continues to inspire artists and designers to push boundaries and to challenge norms.
Yeah.
And in 2014, a documentary titled Abeti Masikini, The Struggle of a Woman, was released,
Oh, wow.
ensuring that her legacy lives on, I guess.
It's a reminder that her impact wasn't just about the music, it was about what she represented, a woman who dared to be different, to challenge the status quo, and to make her voice heard on a global stage.
She did with style.
Yeah.
And grace.
And an unwavering commitment to her craft.
Absolutely. But as we know, her story is a tragic ending.
It does. During the recording of her final album, which she poignantly titled La Reine de Suku,
Queen of Suku.
Queen of Suku, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer.
Oh my goodness.
Imagine that weight, knowing you're battling a life-threatening illness while creating your final masterpiece.
It's heartbreaking, but it also speaks to her strength and determination. Even facing this devastating diagnosis, she poured her heart and soul into her music.
Such a powerful testament to her artistic spirit and her unwavering commitment to her craft.
Sadly, she passed away in 1994 at the age of 39.
Yeah, gone too soon, but her legacy lives on.
And that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Yes.
What are your thoughts so far, listener? Are you struck by, the depth of Abeti's talent and her courage in challenging the status quo? Or maybe you're reflecting on the complexities of cultural identity and the power of music to transcend borders and connect people from different backgrounds. It's amazing to think about everything Abeti achieved in such a short lifetime.
It really is.
I mean, she navigated cultural expectations. She broke down barriers for female artists.
Yeah.
And left this unforgettable mark on Congolese music.
She did, and she did it all while staying true to her artistic vision. Her story really reminds us that the most powerful statements sometimes come from just being yourself, even when the world is telling you to be somebody else.
It's such a powerful message, for anyone who's ever felt like an outsider.
Yeah.
Especially for artists who are, trying to find their voice in a world that often pressures them to conform. What do you think resonated most with you, listener? Was it her musical innovation? Was it her bold social commentary? Or maybe her unwavering commitment to her Congolese heritage, even when it was questioned by others?
I think each aspect of her journey offers these valuable insights, Her international success really highlights that universal appeal of Congolese music.
Absolutely.
Proving that, music can transcend borders and connect people from all walks of life.
And it speaks to her ability to bridge cultural divides. Right, something that's increasingly important in our, interconnected world.
Absolutely, but beyond the music itself, her story reminds us that true success is often about more than just achieving fame or fortune.
Right.
It's about having the courage to challenge norms, to lift others up along the way, and to leave a lasting legacy that inspires future generations.
And she did that. She wasn't just a singer.
Right?
She was a trailblazer. She was a mentor. She was a cultural icon who paved the way for countless other artists to follow in her footsteps.
Imagine if she had given in to those early criticisms and abandoned her Swahili-influenced style.
Yeah, would we even be talking about her today?
Would she have achieved that same level of success and impact?
It's a question worth pondering. Her story reminds us that sometimes the things that make us different are the very things that make us special, the things that allow us to connect with others in a truly meaningful way.
And her influence is still felt today, not just in Congo, but across the world. Her music continues to be played and celebrated, and her legacy as the Queen of Sukus remains a source of pride and inspiration.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you, listener, with a final thought to carry with you. What can we learn from Abeti Masikini's extraordinary journey? What aspect of her story resonate most deeply with you? And how can you apply those insights to your own life? Whether it's finding the courage to embrace your unique voice, standing up for what you believe in, or simply appreciating the power of music to connect us all. We hope that this exploration of her life and legacy has left you feeling empowered and inspired.
Abeti Masikini's life was truly extraordinary. But before we wrap up, I kind of want to shift the focus back to you, the listener. What are your takeaways from this deep dive? What resonates with you about Abeti's journey? I mean, it's inspiring, isn't it?
It is.
Seeing how she navigated this male-dominated industry, and she challenged conventions, and she just fused her Congolese roots with global sounds to create something that was just so unique.
Yeah, and she reminds us that music isn't static. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Borrowing from different cultures and traditions. I mean, think of soukous, right? That infectious Congolese dance music.
I love soukous.
Yeah, I mean, it draws on Cuban rumba rhythms, but it infuses them with Congolese guitar styles and a driving, almost hypnotic beat.
Yeah, it's like early funk music.
It is.
But Congolese.
Congolese.
Yeah. It makes you want to get up and dance.
It does.
And that's what Abeti did so brilliantly. You know, she took all these different like musical threads and just wove them together and created something like that was so fresh and exciting.
Yeah, and she wasn't afraid to take risks. You know? Even if it meant facing criticism, she understood that, you know, pushing boundaries is how you make art that matters.
Right.
Art that sparks conversation and pushes culture forward.
Yeah, her story also highlights the power of women in music. I mean, she was a trailblazer, you know, paving the way for future generations of female artists to like own the stage and to make their voices heard. And it wasn't easy, you know, but she did it, you know, with style, with grace, and never compromising her vision.
Imagine being like a young woman in Congo and seeing Abeti Masikini, right? Commanding audiences worldwide, singing in Swahili, wearing this bold fashion, challenging the norms of what a female artist could be. It must have been incredibly empowering.
I bet. It's a reminder that representation matters.
Yeah.
You know, seeing someone who looks like you, who comes from a similar background, achieving success on a global stage, that can be like life-changing. It plants that seed, you know, that said, hey, like I can do that too.
Yeah.
And her legacy continues to inspire today. The documentary Abeti Masikini, The Struggle of a Woman, is a testament to her enduring impact. You know, it allows new generations to discover her music, her story, her message of empowerment.
It's a deep dive.
Yeah.
Into her life, her challenges, her triumphs, and her unwavering spirit.
Yeah, it's a must-watch for anybody who's interested in African music, you know, female empowerment or the power of like artistic innovation. And for you, the listener, what stands out the most? What will you take away from this deep dive into Abeti Masikini's extraordinary life and music? I'm curious to know, like, what resonated with you. Was it her musical innovation? Was it her bold fashion choices? Was it her fight for recognition in this male-dominated industry?
Yeah, maybe it's the idea that staying true to your roots, it doesn't mean staying stagnant. You know, it's about taking those roots and moving them into something new, something that reflects who you are and where you come from, while still pushing boundaries and challenging expectations.
That's the beauty of music, right? It's a bridge between cultures. It's a reflection of our individual and collective identities, and it's just this powerful tool for change, you know? And Abeti Masikini's story reminds us that music can move us, it can inspire us, and it can challenge us to see the world in new ways. So if you haven't already, go explore Abeti Masikini's music. Let those like infectious rhythms like wash over you. Let her powerful voice move you, and let her story inspire you to, you know, embrace your own unique voice and create something extraordinary.
Dive deep into the world of Congolese soukous.
Yes.
You might just discover your new favorite artist.
That's right. Until next time, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep the music playing. So, all right. Where were we? Oh yeah, Abeti and her big collaboration with Franco Luambo Macchiati, the king of Congolese Rhumba.
Huge shift for her.
Yeah, it's a big change. Going from, you know, like incorporating disco and pop and all that to like diving headfirst into like traditional rumba.
Yeah.
Did she like keep her own sound though?
I mean, well, her move into rumba in the 80s, it definitely like brought her commercial success.
Oh yeah, rumba was huge.
And her vocals, like they fit right in, powerful.
Yeah.
But it did spark debate.
Oh, I bet. Was it seen as like a sellout move? Like was she like abandoning the more like innovative fusion that she'd been doing in her earlier work?
Some thought so, yeah. They missed the Swahili, the folk elements, that audacious blend of Congolese and global sounds. It's like, you know, when your favorite band, you know, they release a new album and it sounds completely different.
Oh, totally.
Some fans are going to embrace the change. Others, they're going to long for the old sound.
It's a tough spot for an artist to be in. You want to like grow and explore new things, but you also don't want to alienate, you know, the audience that you already have, the people who love you for that initial sound.
Right. And remember, like, she'd faced criticism before for not being Congolese enough. So this shift to rumba, even though it was commercially successful, it raised these questions about artistic evolution.
Yeah.
Right. Versus like staying true to your roots. Was she playing it safe? Was it a calculated move to finally win over the Congolese audience?
It's hard to know.
It's fascinating how her career is so tied into this debate about authenticity and artistic integrity. It makes you think, if she hadn't achieved that international success early on, do you think she would have felt the same pressure to conform to a more traditional Congolese sound?
Yeah. It's like she was being pulled in these two different directions. The global stage was embracing this unique blend of sounds. But at home, she kind of had to prove herself within the more established rumba tradition.
But even within rumba, she still brought her own flair to it.
Oh, totally.
Take her 1986 album, Je suis fâché, massive hit, right? And it introduced her music to a whole new generation.
New generation, yeah.
And that was produced by Cameroonian artist Georgia Seba.
That's right.
So there's another layer there, cross-cultural influence.
Exactly. Even when working within a more traditional genre, she was still finding ways to innovate, to push boundaries.
Yeah.
It's just we fâché, fresh sounds, influences from Cameroon and beyond.
Yeah.
It wasn't your typical rumba album.
Yeah.
I mean, even her stage presence, she starts performing at these prestigious venues like the Zenith in Paris, Apollo Theater in Harlem.
Oh, wow.
She's showcasing the power, the global appeal of Congolese rumba.
Amazing.
It's really cool.
So it seems like she's able to kind of find a balance, right, where she's achieving mainstream success in Congo, but she's not completely abandoning her innovative spirit.
Right.
But, we can't talk about Abeti without talking about her rivalry with another Congolese music icon, Mpongo Love.
Yeah. Legendary rivalry. A little shrouded in mystery, though.
Oh, I know.
There's a lot of speculation, and it's mostly based on their song lyrics. What are they trying to say? Are they taking jabs at each other?
It's like a musical soap opera playing out on vinyl.
Exactly. So take Abeti's song, Bailando Landa, which means, a follower.
Oh, I see where this is going.
A lot of people interpret it as a subtle dig at Mpongo Love, suggesting that she was imitating Abeti's style.
Oh.
And then Mpongo Love fires back with Koba, meaning continue.
Oh.
Like I'm doing my thing. I'm not backing down.
That is so good. It's fascinating how artists can use their music to communicate, even when they're not directly addressing each other.
They really is.
Their rivalry, real or perceived, it definitely added another layer of intrigue to their careers.
Well, absolutely. And it kind of highlights the unique pressures that women in music often face.
Yeah.
Particularly in male-dominated genres like rumba. They're not just competing with each other, they're also fighting for recognition, for respect in an industry that doesn't always welcome them with open arms.
That's right.
But, rivalry aside, both Abeti and Mpongo Love made incredible contributions to Congolese music.
Oh, yeah.
They were pioneers, paving the way for future generations of female artists.
Speaking of legacies, what would you say is Abeti's most significant contribution to the world of music? Was it her fearless fusion of sounds? Was it her captivating stage presence, or was it even her impact on fashion? There are clothing items named after her songs. The Abeti skirt.
The Abeti skirt. I mean, come on. It's hard to choose just one.
It's hard.
She was a true innovator, a risk taker, a global icon. She revolutionized Congolese music. She broke down barriers for women in the industry, and she brought the vibrant sounds of Congo to a worldwide audience.
And she was a fashion trendsetter, and it wasn't just about looking good. It was about another way for her to express herself and challenge expectations. Imagine seeing this powerful woman owning the stage in a bold Abeti skirt, a style that's going to become synonymous with female empowerment.
Exactly.
It's a legacy that goes way beyond just the music.
You see echoes of her influence even today, both in music and in fashion. Her story continues to inspire artists and designers to push boundaries, to challenge norms. And in 2014, a documentary titled Abeti Masikini, The Struggle of a Woman, was released, ensuring that her legacy lives on.
Oh, wow.
It's a reminder that her impact wasn't just about the music, it was about what she represented. A woman who dared to be different, to challenge the status quo, and to make her voice heard on a global stage.
And she did it all with style and grace and an unwavering commitment to her craft.
Absolutely. She was an incredible woman. Abeti Masikini's life was truly extraordinary. So what are your takeaways from this deep dive?
Yeah, what resonated with you about Abeti's journey? It's inspiring, isn't it? Seeing how she navigated this male-dominated industry, challenged conventions, and fused her Congolese roots with global sounds to create something so unique.
She reminds us that music isn't static. It's constantly evolving, borrowing from different cultures, traditions. I mean, think of soukous, that infectious Congolese dance music.
I love soukous.
Right. It draws on Cuban rumba rhythms.
Yeah.
But it infuses them with Congolese guitar styles and this like driving, almost hypnotic beat.
Yeah, it's like early funk music, but like Congolese.
The Congolese. And
Yeah.
it makes you want to get up and dance.
It really does, and that's what Abeti did so brilliantly. You know, she took these different like musical threads and just wove them together to create something that was so fresh and exciting.
And she wasn't afraid to take risks, even if it meant facing criticism. She understood that pushing boundaries is how you make art that matters.
Right.
Art that sparks conversations, art that pushes culture forward.
Yeah, and she wasn't afraid to take risks, you know, even if it meant facing criticism. Right. She understood that pushing boundaries is how you make art that matters.
Absolutely.
Art that sparks conversation and pushes culture forward.
For sure.
And her story, it also really highlights the power of women in music.
That's right.
I mean, she was a trailblazer.
Oh, yeah.
You know, paving the way for future generations of female artists to like own the stage and make their voices heard. And it wasn't easy.
No, was it?
You know, but she did it with style, with grace.
For sure.
And never compromising her vision.
Imagine being like a young woman in Congo and seeing Abeti Masikini, you know,
Right.
like commanding these audiences worldwide, singing in Swahili, wearing this bold fashion,
Yeah.
and just challenging these norms of what a female artist could be. It must have been incredibly empowering.
I bet. Like, so empowering.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that representation matters.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, seeing someone who looks like you, who comes from a similar background, achieving success on this global stage.
Right.
It can be life-changing.
Yeah.
It plants a seed.
It does.
You know, that says, hey, I can do that too.
I could do that.
And her legacy continues to inspire today. You know, the documentary Abeti Masikini, The Struggle of a Woman.
Amazing documentary.
Yeah, it's a testament to her enduring impact. It allows, you know, new generations to discover her music, her story,
Right.
her message of empowerment.
Yeah, a deep dive
It is a deep dive.
into her life, her challenges, her triumphs,
Yeah.
her unwavering spirit.
A must-watch for anybody who's interested in African music, female empowerment, or the power of like artistic innovation.
Totally.
So we've really gotten to like explore Abeti Masikini's life and music.
Her extraordinary life in music.
What stands out the most to you, the listener? What will you take away from this?
Yeah, I'm curious to know what resonated with you. Was it her musical innovation? Was it her bold fashion choices? Was it her fight for recognition in this, you know, male-dominated industry?
Yeah, was it her like ability to kind of like balance those two worlds, you know, the global stage and her Congolese roots?
Yeah, maybe it's the idea that staying true to your roots, it doesn't mean staying stagnant.
Oh, that's so good.
You know,
Yeah.
it's about taking those roots and weaving them into something new, something
Yeah.
that reflects, you know, who you are and where you come from, while still pushing boundaries and challenging expectations.
That's the beauty of music, right? It's a bridge between cultures. It's a reflection of our individual and collective identities.
That's right.
And it's just this like powerful tool for change.
Abeti Masikini's story reminds us that music can move us.
It can.
It can inspire
For
us,
sure.
and it can challenge us to see the world in new ways.
So if you haven't already, go explore Abeti Masikini's music. Let those infectious rhythms like wash over you. Let her powerful voice move you, and let her story inspire you to, you know, embrace your own unique voice and create something extraordinary.
Dive deep into the world of Congolese soukous.
Yes,
You might just discover your new favorite artist.
you might. Until next time, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep the music playing.
Always.